The VO Meter, measuring your voiceover progress. Whether you're a veteran voice actor, just starting out, or don't even know how to set a level, we're here to help you avoid the pitfalls along your voiceover path to success. The VO Meter is brought to you by Global Voice Acting Academy, JMC Demos, Studio Bricks, Voice Actor Websites, and Roswell Pro Audio. The VO Meter is produced in part using Source Connect made by source-elements.com. And now your hosts, Paul Stefano and Sean Daly.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 112 of the VO Meter.
Measuring your voiceover progress.
We've got a great interview with award-winning audiobook narrator Amanda Stribling. That'll be coming up shortly. But before we get to that,
it's time for our
VoiceOver Extra brings you the VO Meter reference levels. Seriously, guys, that's the best you could come up with? Hey, it's your show.
So, Sean, what's been happening in your VO world or personal world?
Well, personal stuff. Well, I'm turning 1 year older tomorrow. So,
oh, really? Is that tomorrow?
Yeah, it's tomorrow. So,
happy early birthday, buddy.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
You're
so
20,
for those who don't
right?
know, my birthday's on January 24th, and I'll be turning 39 tomorrow. So, almost middle-aged.
It's all downhill from there.
So I hear.
No, it's not. It's all the same at that age. For me, the brick wall was 35, and nothing's really changed since then. I'm sore every day, and it was like that then, and it is now.
Mm-hmm. My joints are crappy enough as it is. I really need to get back to the gym and get some stability going.
That might help. I actually just built one in my house, not for me, for my 16-year-old son. Well, now he's about to turn 17, but yeah, he wanted to build a whole gym for bulking up for baseball, the baseball team. So now I had this ridiculous powerlifting cage that you could like train for the WWE for.
Wow.
And he's using it. I'm not. I really should start at some point.
We'll just work out when he does, if it works for your schedule.
I don't think he'd like that.
Okay.
It's in the basement.
Come on, son, let's bond together.
Yeah.
No, Dad, you're weird.
I'm actually a little nervous about what exactly he's doing down there because he's in the basement. And he'll go down there and close the door and be there for 4 hours. And I'm thinking, there's no way he's working out all that time. So God knows what else is going on down there. Every once in a while, I'll go down there and snoop around, make sure there's no like drug paraphernalia or
I was going to
beer
say,
cans.
Are you noticing like strange chemical smells?
Yeah. Or the beer disappearing from the fridge. So far, so good. But yeah, he wouldn't like me working out with him for sure.
Oh, that's too bad. But anyways, yeah, we have a little home gym here too, but like it's been so long, I wouldn't mind doing a session or two with a trainer to be like, all right, your form's fine, go off, like go forth and lift, but and stuff like that. But other than that, just been busy. I'm going to be starting a new audiobook next week. I finally got the pronunciation guide back from the publisher, so lots of Latin terms in that one.
Oh, the one you were talking about last episode?
Yeah. So it was a little bit slow going just because of like the holidays and stuff like that, and it took them a while to get back with the pronunciation guide. But we start next week, and then one video game job that I was started or auditioned for in like September, October is finally moving forward with recording. So hopefully we'll get my sessions done with them by the end of the month. And then other than that, it's just been a lot of auditioning and a lot of work for GVAA. We've got like almost 40 coach-led workouts this month. So I've been moderating those and making sure they get uploaded to our video library. We had a couple cool live events this month. But yeah, just been busy auditioning, couple of projects, and preparing for some new ones next week.
Very cool.
What about you?
So one other quick announcement, and this is related to what you were just talking about. I'm actually being brought on as a coach for at least one session for GVAA. So That's very exciting. Thank you, sponsors of the show, Global Voice Acting Academy. And I'm doing a session on live sports announcing, which shouldn't surprise anybody. And that is coming up on February 20th. And it's called Game On, How to Break into Live Sports Announcing with Paul Stefano. That's me. So if you're interested, it should be on the website now. Sign up when you can with your membership. And I hope to see you there on February 20th.
Nice. Yeah, we've been getting a lot of questions about interested people or people interested about sports announce. So I'm glad that we were able to get you in.
Yeah, and somebody who somewhat knows what they're talking about at least, so it'll be cool. So other things I'm working on, couple of audiobooks, actually a lot of audiobooks. As you know, I work part-time for Twin Flame Studios directing other people doing their audiobooks, and that has picked up. We had a bit of a lull, honestly, at the end of the year, and a little worrisome, but we're gangbusters in the start of the year, so I'm directing 2 right now. One is called Intrusive Leadership by Marcus Kennedy. Pretty interesting read, or listen as it were, about how to basically get in people's faces as a leader and manager in order to create a better relationship with them. So not sitting back and feeling shy or worried about asking personal questions, but in a tactful and insightful way, asking questions to get people to open up and bring their personal lives to work, because it helps them be better at their job if they feel comfortable with their boss and as a leader. So he's a retired or part-time now Coast Guard officer, and got pretty high up in the ranks. I think in the one part of the book he said he was the first African-American leader of a Coast Guard station, or captain of a Coast Guard station. So pretty cool life story, and we're almost finished that. And then I am working on another book by an author named Amy Clymer called Deliberate Creative Teams. And this is also a leadership book that is about helping your people at your job or even nonprofit organization bring their creativity, and how everybody has creativity, and how there aren't quote unquote creative people, but everyone has it in them, and it's up to you as a leader or even employee to bring that out of your coworkers in the workplace in order to help them be more productive in their jobs. So this fits in with a lot of the books we do. A lot of the books at Twin Flames are based on leadership or business, and these fit right in there. Both of those we should wrap up in the next week, so that's been fun. And then I started one more just today, and this one is called Outsmart the Learning Curve by Joe Cipher. And this, again, is kind of about the workplace, but this is about how to work on things that you may not think you were qualified for by taking them in small pieces and maybe taking an unconventional way to learn the new skills that you need to in order to do a job. It's all about people who were told that they couldn't do something when they were a kid, or they weren't the right fit for something, or the circumstances in which they grew up made them think they weren't right for a career they really wanted to do. But usually later in life, they could not let go of that glimmer, as he describes it, and eventually that led them to finding their true calling when they stopped listening to the voices in their heads or the people around them. So that's a cool read as well, or again, listen.
Oh, I'm really interested in that too, because I feel like I have some self-limiting beliefs that I might need to untangle as well.
Yeah, I feel like this was right about all about me too. Like I won't give out the whole thing because obviously it's a book we want you to buy at some point. But he basically had 3 buckets of people and how they approach the workplace. So one is people who basically bounce from one thing to another until they find the right job. People who have something, like a burning desire to do something, but they didn't think they had enough money or skills to do that, or they were afraid of failing, basically imposter syndrome. And then people who stopped and gave up too early because of expectations from their parents or a teacher that told them they couldn't do something. And I thought all 3 of these basically describe me. I've had about 20 different full-time jobs since I graduated with my undergraduate degree in broadcasting. I always wanted to do voiceover, always wanted to do announcing, and never thought I could do it because of where I lived or lack of skills, and then flat-out imposter syndrome. And then people telling me it was a stupid idea. I had an internship in high school with one of the local NBC News reporters, like basically one of the most famous people in the city of Philadelphia where I grew up. And it was this cool program my high school did where it was basically a 6-week internship at the end of your senior year to pick a job. So I wanted to be a news reporter, and I was tagging along with this guy, going to crime scenes, mayor press conferences, all these cool things. And he told me, "Don't do this job, kid. It's a dead end. You don't want to do this job." And that stuck with me for a long time. I went and got that degree in broadcasting, basically wanting to be a news reporter. But I was listening to Mr. Robin McIntosh, was his name, and I thought, yeah, he's right. It's a stupid idea. I better get a real job. And so all three of these examples that Joe in his book is describing, I feel like fit me and so many people in the business world.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. Like I can think of things that resonate with me that might resonate with Rachel. And I feel it's especially true of people who take that leap and try to do this creative endeavor, whether it's acting or being a newscaster or whatever.
Yeah. So that we just started this book today, and that was the first chapter. So as we get through this, I'm pretty interested to see how it all plays out. And then finally, I'm narrating a book for the first time in a while. It's been a big dry spell for me, like several months. I landed a book from Audio Productions, which is a company I've worked with before, but it's been a long time since they hired me for a job. And this book is called Atheistic Christianity, A Different Look at God by Dwayne A. Carlson. And it's a book about how atheism and Christianity are not that different if you look at the core tenets of Christianity. And I've only gotten through 4 chapters, but it makes sense to me as a confirmed Catholic. A lot of the things that Mr. Carlson is talking about resonate with me, especially in the last couple of weeks when the U.S. has been kind of overtaken by, what's the word? Not reformist.
Fundamentalist views?
Yes, fundamentalist Christianity, which make no sense in a lot of cases. I might get myself in trouble, but it seems like the word of God and what Jesus taught are not in congruence with what is currently happening in America. And this book is all about that, how because those views are really closer to atheism than actual Christianity, those two intersect a lot. So I'm really fascinated to see where this goes too. Like I said, I'm 4 chapters in.
Mm-hmm. Really cool stuff. And obviously it's like, we'll take what work comes our way, but it's always nice when it has that personal resonance and passion, right?
Yeah, part of it may be just me gripping on, saying, hey.
Looking for things. Hey, that's a good attitude, though.
Yeah.
Just like find the joy in the work, not the work in the joy.
Yeah, I think that might be a little bit of that. But like I wouldn't have necessarily sought out some of these projects, but yeah, now that they're here, I'm embracing them, and yeah, it's pretty cool stuff.
Some weird, wild stuff. Cool. So we're going to go ahead and get to our interview with Amanda Stribling in a second, but it's time for our
questionable gear purchase.
So have you done anything stupid? I kind of have, or I'm about to.
Well, mine's VO adjacent. I mean, you guys have known I've kind of gone back and forth on like, is he going to upgrade his Mac Mini? Is he not going to upgrade his Mac Mini? I'm probably going to wait till, like I said, I turned 39. I think my 40th birthday is a good day to get a nice new machine. So I'm going to wait. Help me deal with that midlife crisis. But I did actually get a PlayStation 5, like I said I would. And I know, like, obviously that's not directly relevant to VO, but one thing that I'm trying to do this year is to create some character demos for animation in video games. So I'm starting to be I'm starting to actively consume more video games and cartoons when I can find the time, just so I can better study the current performance styles. And I think it really has helped. I feel like I'm trying to do more what I call a minimalistic approach. Like, how little can I do vocally to still effectively communicate what I want? And I just feel like I'm way more relaxed. I've also been working with some like body and breath coordination coaches at GVAA to help with this and kind of recognize how much tension I hold in my body, because it's like I'm in the booth, got to be strategic with my breathing, got to have resonance and all that stuff. And it's just kind of getting out of my head and back into my body. So anyways, that does not help with video games, I will say that. But it has been fun to just really appreciate all the wonderful acting from games like Spider-Man 2 and Baldur's Gate 3. And just, it's kind of getting me excited about pursuing those mediums more avidly. So that was my big purchase this year. But it did help me not get an expensive computer purchase. So there you go.
And now you can play Marvel Rivals and listen to Jordan and Mara and Steven.
Absolutely. It's already downloaded. Haven't cracked it open yet because I know like some 12-year-old's going to destroy me on it.
Yeah, I don't. Do you turn on the chat when you're doing that? Do you have a headset?
No, that's not for me. I hear people I hear that's where a lot of like cyberbullying and pejorative talk happens, and I'm just like, it's not what I want. I can barely focus with my own inner monologue, let alone some stranger in Taiwan like shouting at me. But
Yeah, I'm the same way. I don't even have a headset. I used to play sometimes on the Kinect when Microsoft had that stupid camera attachment.
oh yeah,
And it had like a speaker built in, so I would sometimes hear like people talking smack, but I would never respond. And even that was too much. I didn't want to hear some like 12-year-old cursing at me about how he dunked on me in NBA 2K.
yeah, it's very toxic. Like,
Yeah,
I like video games as much more of like, kind of going into your own fantasy land. It's like
yeah.
rather than just
I think it's a
like
bit of a generational thing because like my kids, they do that all the time. Thankfully, mostly with friends. They don't play with strangers very often, but yeah, they're constantly online talking to each other, either on the games or on Discord while they're playing a game.
Interesting. I know it's so because it's oh god, our attention spans are spread so thin.
Hmm.
But it's like I have actually started playing, like I said, Baldur's Gate with Rachel because we used to play D&D with our friends when she lived in Hawaii, and we haven't really had anything like that in a while. So it's been nice, kind of like to put our creative caps on and to do something together in that way.
Hmm. Very cool. So from my end, so I've not bought anything, but I'm making a change to the booth again, which I guess is questionable. About a year ago, maybe 2 years ago now, I stopped using an iPad to read off of and bought a bigger monitor to put in my booth. Part of that was to read off of when I was doing live sessions because people started sending me a lot of storyboards to read during directed sessions or even like Vimeos where I had to read the picture. So that was becoming very hard on the tiny monitor I had and an iPad. So I put in this like 27-inch monitor. I still have that, but I found it wasn't as easy as I thought to go back and forth between the DAW and whatever script I was reading. You can sort of resize them on a Mac and it kind of works, but in order to control things, you do have to go back and select the program you want to work in. So for Punch and Roll specifically, it was extremely hard with audiobooks because I would click on the PDF or the Word document and scroll up and down to read. And then every time I had to put in a punch, I'd have to take the mouse, go click on the DAW, and then adjust from there. And not typically, but often, I would miss, and I'd be hitting the stupid space bar to stop the recording, and it wouldn't work. It was actually just put in spaces in the Word document, and that got frustrating. So I brought an iPad. First of all, I bought an iPad. I think I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, so that's not new. But I brought the iPad back into the booth, and I'm reading my audiobooks off of that because it's just that much easier. I don't have to worry about moving the mouse and having the clicks go on the wrong selected program. I can just scroll with my finger, like I'm doing right now, and you can't even hear it. Magic. And I can operate the DAW at the same time. So it's a minor thing, but just ergonomically, it makes much more sense.
Well, yeah, and I think we've talked about this a little bit before in earlier episodes, but I think it can be important to compartmentalize your process, both like, say, your auditioning process, breaking it up into steps, but also your gear and instead of having like one thing be responsible for multiple things, like separate it into stations like you're doing, just having the iPad be just the reading device and having your monitor being just the recording device and stuff like that. So every now and then when I'm feeling a little unfocused, that's what I'll do. I'll bring the iPad in here so I can just stare at the script and not go to like social media at the drop of a hat,
Yeah. The one problem I'm having is I keep a wireless keyboard in here to control all this. And I had a nice spot for it on the mini desk I have in here. And now that's being taken up by the iPad because I used to have the iPad on an arm that was screwed into the desk. But now the monitor is too big to do that. So, first world problems for sure. But right now I'm just holding the wireless keyboard on my lap. And it seems to work for now. But I
used to use one of those lap desks for that purpose for a long time.
Yeah, I can't really do that because of the stupid chair I use. It's another problem. That'll be the next questionable gear purchase. Now I'm so old, this bar stool I use to sit on is starting to hurt like pretty much every time I sit here. So I have to find something more ergonomic to sit in But that'll involve adjusting where the mic is and all that crap. So I have to finish all the projects I'm working on before I make a change like that. But my point is the lap desk, I'm kind of pitched forward because there's a name for it. Oh, saddle stool. It's a saddle stool that I use to force you to sit upright and sit up straight, but it also kind of pitches you forward. So the lap desk would just fall right over.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
It's almost like the exercise balls, like it forces you to have good posture, which is a good thing generally. But you can't really rest something on your lap at the same time.
Well, in the spirit of New Year's and resolutions, what would your gear resolution be for this year?
Well, you mean just in general or about the chair?
Yeah, this could be, in general. This could be aspirational. You don't actually have to.
I need to buy an RE20.
Oh, really? It's funny. I've been.
Do you want to know why?
Dead. Why?
Well, for live announcing, the one place.
Okay.
The one place that won't let me use my own mic is the Washington Nationals. Every other place I go to, I can bring my own mic, but they have an RE20 that they really love, and they don't want to mess around with the settings for a 40,000 seat stadium, which I get totally. So they said if I had the same mic, they would let me use it. So, and even though I'm only there a couple times a year, I think I want to buy my own mic. So at some point, I'm going to find an RE20 and then just bring that to the Nationals.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and that's what it's for. It's for like a live announce broadcast, that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
I'm curious because I've seen a lot of people try to recommend it for like beginner talent in less than ideal spaces, and I'm just like, if you can, better to get something out, like maybe a shotgun.
Yeah. No, I'm using it for what it's intended for: live announcing to a big arena or big stadium.
Good for you. That's awesome. Let's see, for me, I don't really need anything, but I know my buddy Jordan Reynolds has often encouraged the Townsend Labs Sphere microphone, and then I think it would be nice to finally invest in a UA Apollo device, probably just a solo, maybe a duo, but partially because everyone's doing it, and partially because I know that people who are doing the work I want to do is doing that. So, like I said, this is pie in the sky upgrades, but it would be nice to have one or both of those devices.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, they're great, and they're great for traveling, too, so you could justify it that way. But if you've got the Arrow, you could bring that around with you.
Oh, cool. I hadn't thought about that.
Uh-oh. Did I just convince you?
No. Next year, next week on questionable gear purchases.
That's funny.
No, I'm highly influential. So that wraps up our questionable gear purchases for this month. Up next, we've got our interview with Amanda Stribling coming right after these messages.
How many times has this happened to you? You're listening to the radio when this commercial comes on, not unlike this one, and this guy starts talking, not unlike myself.
Or maybe it's a woman that starts talking, not unlike myself, and you think to yourself, geez, I could do that.
Well, mister, well, missy, you just got one step closer to realizing your dream as a voiceover artist, because now there's Global Voice Acting Academy. All the tools and straight-from-the-hip, honest information you need to get on a fast track to doing this commercial yourself.
Well, not this one exactly.
Classes, private coaching, webinars, home studio setup, marketing and branding help, members-only benefits like workouts, rate and negotiation advice, practice scripts, and more. All without the kind of hype you're listening to right now. Go ahead, take our jobs from us. We dare you.
Speak for yourself, buddy. I like what I do.
And you will too when you're learning your craft at Global Voice Acting Academy. Find us at globalvoiceacademy.com.
Because you like to have fun.
Hey everyone, Studio Bricks designs and creates the highest performing portable sound isolation booths. Our professionally perfected acoustics enhances your performance and takes your recordings to their maximum quality from your home studio. Forget about managing noise conflicts with your neighbors and family. Pursue your passion for voiceover on your own time and on your own terms.
Walgreens, because it's flu season, and you live in a place with doorknobs and handrails and, people.
We tried booking a vacation rental on one of those other websites. They don't always tell you everything.
The stars take it to the red carpet.
We are back live from the red carpet. California leads the way for change in America, and so does Kamala Harris.
Rated M for mature. Claire Redfield.
And who exactly are you?
So, yeah, what hashtag should I use to describe a grown man in a tuxedo wrestling a goat?
And prior to 1933, many of them belonged to a variety of political parties that were now outlawed in Germany.
This is the story of how Q got curly. Quinn was crazy about curls. Curly fries, curly straws, curly-haired dogs.
Hey, Jay Michael here. Thanks for listening to the VO Meter podcast. It's one of my favorites. If you're looking for a great demo like the ones you just heard, check out jmcdemos.com for more information.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the interview portion of this episode of the VO Meter. Today, we are proud and excited to be welcoming Amanda Stribling. Now, Amanda is a proud SOVAS and One Voice nominated audiobook narrator. She has narrated around 180 books, give or take a chapter, from her home studio. Amanda is in this industry by way of being completely obsessed with reading and equally obsessed with audiobooks, while also having a flair and passion for performance. Theater kid. Should have been a hashtag theater kid. Amanda is a reader first, narrator second. She adores books and has been reading her entire life. Amanda grew up on her mother's many mystery and detective series, and of course, Sweet Valley High. Her favorite genres were romance, romantic comedy, literature, young adult, sci-fi, fantasy, and thriller. Being a self-proclaimed audio addict, Amanda has listened to thousands of audiobooks and knows what it takes to engage the listener and help them to connect with the story. Amanda lives in Nashville, Tennessee, and loves all music, not just country music. And you can find her also under her pseudonym, Allie Piper. So welcome to the show, Amanda.
Thank you for having me. Boy, that's a professional little bio there, right?
Hey, we try.
Thought it was very captivating and enthusiastic. Really got a sense of who you were.
Well, I think I tried to do that. Like I needed a smiley face in there or something.
You succeeded. Well done. But anyways, welcome, Amanda. So we wanted to know, how exactly did you get into audiobook narration in the first place?
Okay, so this is a funny story. I know that there's a lot of us out there that do this, and I always, fight with people because I'm like, I'm not an actor. I'm not an actor. I'm not an actor. And everybody's like, but you are. And I'm like, but I'm not. Like, I was literally a listener who grew up doing this fun stuff sometimes. And then, you just get old and you have kids and you get married and, life, and you need to make money and yada, yada. So I actually had a store, believe it or not, in Nashville. And it sold like furniture and gifts and things like that. And I was a constant just audiobook, fan, listener, whatever. And so I would always have one on. And at this time in my life, I was painting furniture. Like I would paint furniture for people. It's when like chalk paint was a big, deal back in the day. And I was closing the store because it was not successful, and was painting a dresser and was listening to an audiobook. And it was like a best-selling audiobook, like I don't even remember, but like a James Patterson, for example, like a super, super top-selling audiobook. And it was not good. And so I was like, huh. And, I was kind of in this, what am I going to do next? This sucks. I'm like closing the store. What am I going to do? And I was like thinking, I was listening to this audiobook, and it was kind of one of those light bulb things. And it was like, okay, I know this is not an actor. I know this is not a professional actor. I know this is a regular person that is doing this audiobook because they're not great. So then I was like, you know what? I bet if this person does this book mediocre, I bet there's a lot of first-time authors out there that would hire me to do their book that nobody probably ever reads. But, I don't have any training in this. So, there's got to be people out there like this. And that's what I did. I literally that day went home and did not even tell my husband for a long time that I was looking into this, and ordered my first little mic set off at wish.com, which was, the Temu of the day back then, and just wanted to play around and did not know anything about the industry, nothing what I was doing. I didn't even know that this was a job. And I just kind of figured my way into it, and lots of trial and error, lots of research, lots of mistakes. And actually, I need to update my website. I just finished book 260. So,
wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just kind of fell into this and crawled my way in.
Yeah, that's a story we hear a lot. And my story was kind of the same way. Not just audiobooks, but I went into a studio in the place I was already working to record some e-learning content. And it was the first time I had been in a recording booth that was outside of like a radio station or a production studio. And I thought, oh, geez, I could do this. I could do this more. And then I did sort of a similar thing. I just sort of putting auditions out there. And then one of the first things that actually got me hired was a job on ACX. So I kind of fell into it as well. It's a common story, I think.
Well, and I love it. And I hate, it's fine. But I also, I don't know how I'm going to say this without sounding mean, but like, I hate that there's so much information out there now. And it seems like it's a lot easier to get into the business versus when I got in, because I felt like I was completely running solo. And I've never heard of ACX, never known, like I just, you know what I mean? Like I feel like I paid my dues.
When I was getting started, I mean, we have like the audiobook narrator's roadmap, and you have voiceover extra, and you have all of these individual blog
tools,
resources
right?
now.
This podcast,
yeah.
Yes. Yes.
But rather than just bemoan the fact that those didn't exist, I think you should just admire your own gumption and be like, look how far I came without any of this crap. So
exactly.
Well done.
Also, I think while the barriers to entry are even less than they were when we all started, I think it's just as hard to be good and get jobs that are high quality, working with publishers, high quality authors. I think you can probably still get in and I don't know what, I'm trying to censor myself. You can still get in and do a lot of crap, but in order to be good, you still have to be talented and study and train to get the good jobs, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. And to Amanda's point, too, it's like there's so much information. Now you have people mistrusting it because they don't know, like they're so inundated. They're like, who do I choose? Who's the best coach? And I'm like, really? You're spoiled for choice. Just take a chance on something.
Yeah.
I see it every day on social media, the whole.
And nowadays, everybody's a coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, everybody's a coach. So it's like, who do you even choose that's a reliable one? You still got to do your research. But yeah, I just am like, man. Like, I cannot even tell you my first audiobook, like I bet it took me a month, at least a month. And I didn't know about Audacity. I didn't know about, I was on trying to do GarageBand. Do y'all even remember what that was? Back in the day, I had no idea what I was doing. But by golly, I figured it out. And now I'm better for it because I know the ins and outs of all these things. So there you go.
Failing up. Well done.
Yes. Yes.
Well, it's no doubt that one of those things that differentiates you, and we talked about it in your bio, is your love of reading and a passion for performance. Could you talk a little bit more about how those qualities might have helped you in your career?
It's hard to explain this to people. And I'm not, again, I'm going to say this again, I'm not an actor. But my entire life, I can pick up a book. I always have been able to do this. I can pick up a book and immediately fall into the character and into the story and into the world. And I don't know if that's an imagination thing or a psychotic thing, but it's like I am that person, from even the Goosebumps days, and they would terrify me. And all the young books that I would read, I was the puppy, I was this, I was that, and that was just always me. And so I loved reading. And so my first audiobooks that I ever listened to were actually on cassette tape, which is eons ago. And it was because my mother, was so obsessed with them as well. And so as soon as they started happening, she subscribed to booksontapes.com, and she would get a package of cassette tapes, once a week or something. And I would just borrow them. And it was really easy for me to fall right into the story listening because that was just how I've always been. And that's how I've always, read things and everything. And it's weird because, even back then there wasn't, obviously back then there wasn't any audiobook narrators. So, it wasn't like they were highly talented. A lot of them were just authors reading their books.
Well, we've had a few people from that era that have been on the show. Like Sean Pratt has been doing it that long.
Yes, he has.
Grover Gardner. They worked for Books on Tape because they were based out of D.C.
Yeah, there's a handful. And it's kind of cool that they are still legit relevant in the business and they're still doing it, which is so awesome. But yeah, I listened to Scott Brick way back then. My actually first one, and I say author because I got into Harlan Coben's Myron Bolitar series, which was a thriller series, and he narrated them for a while. And now, like, Steven Weber narrates all of his books now. But anyway, point being is, it was just really easy for me to, because I know a lot of people can't listen to audiobooks, and they're like, how do you even get into them? I mean, like, listen to them. I fall out, and I'm like, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm listening to. And I don't know, I just was always able to fall into that. And when I say that I was falling into that, like, I always do dialogue in my head and characterization in my head. And I have my whole life. Like, you know, when I was a teenage girl and was reading teenage romances, like, I was doing the guy in my head, like, you know, and be like, yeah, baby, you know, blah, 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 whatever, you know? But he had a personality. I knew exactly who he was. I could see him. And I don't know, that might be what all readers do. I have no idea. But I know for me, it just comes a little bit easier. I don't have to mark up a script. I don't have to mark out the characters and all their because I can just kind of see them. So I don't know. I guess that's a sort of answering your question in a really, really not answering your question way.
No, not at all. And I know you don't describe yourself as an actor, but character immersion is a very key acting skill that I think you...
Oh, see, there's a word for it. So
yeah,
see?
Immersion. Absolutely. Yeah. No.
There you go.
and honestly, like, I work with Global Voice Acting Academy with aspiring narrators all the time. And I find, like, that's something that they struggle with. I mean, granted, this is like a classroom scenario and people are watching. And so you get the sense that people are just in a rush for the exit. But I'm like, no, the longer the copy, the slower the read. So you can be more immersed and we can hear you, right? And, like, really process all the emotions that are happening and stuff like that. So
yep.
I think that's an incredible
And it's funny
skill.
because, like, talking to so many other narrators in this field, the way that they prep things and the way that they research their books, I'm just like, wow. Like, I mean, I don't look at it as a scientific, like, worksheet and, you know, dive into it meticulously and everything. Like, I kind of just have to, you know, jump in and see where it takes me, kind of. But I still prep and all that stuff. But do you know what I mean? Like, I can look up, like, you know, Stephanie, Paul, and like, she marks up her scripts and marks up her books and has her character lists. And I'm just like, wow, I would get, like, really bogged down by all that information. So it's just different. I don't know. Like, we're all here in a different way, and it makes it kind of cool.
Stephanie has also been a guest on the podcast, by the way, so you're in good company.
Oh.
It was, I think, last year, 2 years ago.
So first, huh? I get that. She's more famous. I get it.
It wasn't that. It was just, I don't know.
I'm just kidding.
I think we had tried to do a joint audition for something, and she was fresh of mind at the time. So, yeah, we had her on a couple of years ago. You know, not everybody marks up their scripts and does the depth of research that some other narrators do. We had Simon Vance on a number of years ago, and he's gotten himself in trouble, at least he says, for saying he doesn't do any prep at all because he feels like he's better immersed in the story when he just goes at it live. And I think some people just have that innate ability.
And they get drilled for it if they say it out loud, for sure. I mean, I would never admit to that. And there is another, and there's certain genres that, for sure, or even like thrillers. Like, I usually will never read the end or browse through the end of a thriller book because I want to be surprised in the moment, you know? Mm-hmm. Because I think that adds to the, you know, listener fun for me to be as surprised as they are. So I don't know.
No, yeah. I agree to an extent. The only problem is if there's a choice you made early in the book that is ruined by the end of the book that you didn't know was coming. So an example I can think of was I did a alien military book where there was like two factions fighting against each other. They were all made up names. So there was this one general.
No, they're not real?
Yeah. So who knows? A current administration in America may reveal something any minute. But anyway, this general, I described the entire time as a man because I was probably just misogynistic. I didn't think any better of it. I thought it was the military. General must be a guy. And then I get to like chapter 31 or something, and they say, General Maka came in with her troops. And I said, oh, my God, I did this entire book in a man's voice, and this main character is a woman. And I had to go back and redo the whole thing.
Yeah, that's bad. Yeah. No, it's funny. It's there's a Natalie Naudus.
Mhm.
She has one of
Also
her
a guest?
TikTok videos. Oh, well, then there you go. She has the funniest video of why you should prep a book, and obviously, what things to search for, and kind of like I prep a book and I'll write down accents that I find and things like that, like skim, but pretty good. But anyway, she's like, why you prep a book? And she's like at the end of the book, and she's like, he says in his Russian accent.
Oh,
what?
right. I've seen that actually, yeah.
But then, it's funny. I did a book, a few months ago. It was first person, and so she describes one of the people that she meets as not being able to tell if it's a German or a Swedish accent, maybe a mixture of both. And so I'm like, well, that's great to try to, do. So you're trying to do a German Swedish, according to her, and you're like, well, and then some of my reviews are like, oh my God, this girl is terrible with accents. I'm like, well, I'm not supposed to do that as accents. I'm supposed to have could it be this? Could it be that? So yeah.
I have a
It
review like
happens.
that. I have a review like that where I did a book that took place in Kentucky, and it was through Dreamscape, publisher, and I went and asked them, do you want me to do an accent? They said, no. Author says absolutely no Southern accent whatsoever. And then every review
Yep.
is, why no Southern accent? Why no Southern accent? This guy is terrible.
Yeah, it's not our fault all the time.
No, not all the time. Sometimes, definitely. So, Amanda, we talked a little bit about it, especially the ones you liked when you were younger, but what are your favorite genres to narrate? And are there different styles of performance or other considerations you make when working across genres?
This always, it's funny that you read my bio too, and I kind of led with romance and rom-com, and I narrated a romance yesterday. I finished it, and I realized it was my first spicy scene that I have done in a long time, and I realized I am trying to gravitate away from romance because I enjoy doing more lit and thrillers and coming of age and, book club books, if that makes sense, And so it was just I was like, oh my gosh, I kind of have gravitated away without even really realizing I was trying to. And I'm not trying to per se, but I just didn't want to be pigeonholed in a romance genre.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as what I like to read and listen to, I am definitely a more thriller person. Back in the day when you went to the library all the time and that was your only way to get books. In the summertime was my 6-pack book reads, and in the wintertime was my fireside book reads. So at the beginning of the summer, I would go to the library and I would check out all books with a 6-pack on the cover. A 6-pack of abs. And those are my 6-pack books because that's what I wanted to read in the summertime. And then, in the wintertime, I liked more dramatic books and more thrilling books. But I guess now that I narrate so much romance and have been in the business so much, when I listen, I tend to listen to more dramatic books, not as fluffy, because I don't get to listen to them that often by myself, for myself. So I tend to be very picky now more so than I used to be.
That makes sense. Well, I don't know about you, but it's hard for me to listen to a romance book when my stupid son is asking me for more goldfish and and Coke.
Yeah, that happens. How old is your son?
My youngest is 13, so he's gradually or rapidly getting out of that needy stage. In fact, he barely wants to talk to me, just like my 16-year-old and 20-year-old.
Yeah, I know. So I've got twins, and they turned 15 on January the 8th. So I think I'm right in the middle of that.
Mm-hmm.
And it stinks. But of course, my kids hate to read. They think this job is stupid. They think, reading is the nerdiest thing you can ever do. And oh my God, my mom's read books. Have you got to read books? So yeah, I wish I had kids that were readers. It would make my life a lot more pleasant.
Yeah, mine are kind of like that too. I even had my daughter has even done an audiobook when she was 9. She did an audiobook for a character that was the same age. It was a short children's book, but that didn't help either. She still hates it.
That's very cool.
Yeah. So every once in a while, you can put them to work and make them useful.
I know, right?
Them to
Earn their
appreciate
keep.
it, make it a chore.
Seriously. I mean, I told them, it got so bad here in this house that, they've known for years, probably since 6th grade. I'm like, I will give you $100 if you finish a book. And they've known that. And I'm like, that's a great job for most children, but not mine. They still don't. And I'm like, oh, Lord.
But I remember growing up, and they had all of those affiliate programs with like Pizza Hut, where you'd read a couple of books over the summer, and you'd get those stars on your badge, and then you just get a little personal pan pizza. That's all we needed, and they won't even take a bill. What's wrong with these kids?
Exactly. I just don't get it. It's that whole information being immediately available now.
Mm-hmm. I noticed it myself. I used to lock myself in a room and read like a 700-page book when I was 15, but like now I can barely get through a blog post. So
I know. And I actually had this conversation with my mom, and because, I kind of got into reading from her, and she still loves it, and I still love it. And we were just talking about how if it would be different nowadays, and if she judges my kids for not wanting to read, and if it's just so different now on how they learn and how they, get information, and it just still is sad. I still am not happy about it. Yeah. And I still love to read. So I'm like, whatever. I don't know.
It's not everybody. I have nieces and nephews who are around the same age as my kids, and they all love reading. In fact, but for Christmas, my oldest niece, who's now 20, gave my youngest niece, who's 12, a whole suitcase full of her old books that she'd finished, just so she could start reading the process too. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and I would have loved that, but yeah, I don't know. Those are my dream kids, I think. Those type kids.
They're too late to exchange them.
Now I've got kids addicted to TikTok, so yeah, I have those.
All right, so we've talked about your love of audiobooks, but how exactly do you go about producing them? How long does it take to complete a usual book?
Well, I love this question, but I hate this question because I do read really, really fast, but it just depends on what genre I'm reading. If I have accents, if I was doing an alien book like you were talking about, Paul, it would take me forever. The book that I was talking to y'all about that has the German-Swedish accent, it was actually, she was a medical professional. And so there were so many medical terms in there. And it took me forever to get through it. But if I'm reading like a rom-com or just a more of a fun book, more fluff, I guess you might say. I usually can read through them pretty fast. But I would say my normal, average in the industry is, 2 for 1. So it's like, for every hour of recording, you get 30 minutes finished audio.
Amazing.
That's probably technically okay. But and that's probably typical of me. But on the other ones, I can usually, knock them out pretty good.
Awesome. And you're a one-woman band, right?
I am a one-woman band. So, yeah. And so, back to how I just fell into this industry, I had to learn how to do all that by myself. And I didn't certainly know anybody in the industry. I live in Nashville. What was I going to do? Call up Keith Urban's engineer and be like, hey,
I hear you. Audiobook presets.
Do you have some studios that I can maybe go in? I'm like, no.
You laugh. That's how I found my first editor. He was a live sound producer for local bands.
Did. You were smarter than me. And I'm like, no, I don't. I think I would have been embarrassed even on these first few books that I did record to actually go into someone professionals.
Don't judge me.
Don't judge me. But yeah, so, I just figured it out. And I tell you what, back to how I got into it versus people nowadays, I'm glad that I learned the way that I learned. I'm glad that I can see breaths. I'm glad I can see clicks. I'm glad I can master audio. I'm glad I can understand room tone and why that's important versus silencing. And, I have, expanders and gates and drive. And like, I love that I know all of that. And I didn't know it before. So I do feel like it makes you a better performer in this industry when you don't have to have the knowledge, obviously, and it's fine if you don't, but I'm proud that I do, because I do feel like that's helped me tremendously.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can take those skills to other vertical markets or horizontal markets now. Like being in Nashville, you could edit live music probably and charge somebody for it if you wanted to. And
oh, sure.
Even record
I'll
live.
do that.
There you go.
I'll go down a Music Row and just, with my sign.
Yeah,
We'll
just say,
edit.
hey, editor for hire. Who needs it?
And sadly, there's probably a million.
Yeah. So continuing that theme, what is your home studio like? Any pieces of gear or software you're a huge fan of or that really made your life easier?
So I love the story of my studio, too. And it's not anything, to write home about, but it's mine and I love it. And I love being in Nashville. And when I started looking to get my own space, like I was in a closet for a while. I was in a master bedroom closet for the next, and then I transformed, how you just move up and up and up or whatever and transform and blah, blah, blah. And so finally, when I was ready for that, I'm going to get a studio. I went to Facebook Marketplace first. And there was, of course, so many on there, which is crazy because everybody's got a studio here and they're either in the business or they're trying to get out or they gave it a whirl or whatever. And so I bought a 4x4 studio that this guy in Hendersonville built, which is about an hour outside of Nashville. And he was an R&B singer. And so I went and looked at it and then got it delivered here. And then I had somebody build that out to a 4x8 and just kind of added to it to make it a little bit bigger and more for audiobooks. But it was funny because he had all these, every song that he did, he had it written in Sharpie on the wall. And I did hate to paint over it, but I totally painted the whole thing pink, which I love. So yeah, but it was fun. And it's my own little oasis. And I've upgraded there as I went too. There was a lady, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago maybe, that she was moving out to LA and getting rid of all of her stuff here. And boy, did I just knock it out of the park with that woman. Got all kinds of I got upgraded foam, but it's also pink foam. So it's not even just the black foam. So I just love it. So yeah, it's just my own little private oasis of fun. So, and it works. It's always approved on all the publisher things and all the stuff. So, but it's not like a Studio Bricks or whatever, but I love it.
Hey, if it works, it works.
It works, I tell ya. Oh, and I'm sorry, software. Okay, so let's get down to the nitty gritty. Let's see. Now I do like to play microphone switcherooskies. And I always like to try out new things on the market because, we were just talking about the deals and I'm oh, get that. Because, you always want to just sound the best. And if there's something out there that's going to make you sound the best, you're going to get it.
Preaching to the choir. Yep.
I know.
I know.
It's oh, you surprised us, you little gear shark. That's
I know. And then, also being in Nashville, all the guitar centers, are just so music. Everybody's a musician and everybody knows all the stuff. And
I'm sure you can find a lot of used gear too.
Yes. So it's just so fun, but also not because you have to make decisions on things. So my point of that is that I always end up going back to my AT 4040. And and every time I try a new one, I'll play with it and I'll play with it. And I just go back to that one every time. And, a couple of people that I respect in the industry have always said I'm crisper on it and I'm not so harsh. And I don't know, I just know it's worked. It's the whole don't rock the apple cart or whatever, reinvent the wheel or whatever those stupid phrases are. I want to keep trying to do better and buy better, but then I end up going back to what I usually what I usually
Broke,
use.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it ain't broke, there you go. There's one. There's another one.
Yeah, that's a great piece of gear. Is that what you're using now?
Yes.
Yeah, sounds great.
Yes, and and then I got let's see, what else do I have? I have a DBX 286S.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And I love that, even though like a lot of publishers do not.
Mm-hmm.
And they're always like, take it off. I'm like, okay. And I have a Scarlett Solo for my, I don't know, interface? Interface. Yeah, is it interface? Okay.
Yep.
I get my DBX and that mixed up, and I've had that forever. I mean, and I replaced it once and then just got the same thing again. And I know it's weird and a lot of people don't think it's good enough, but Natalie Nadas has it. So I'm like, no, she has it. I have it. Like, it's fine. It's fine. And it's really easy to travel with, which I really also love because it's so small if I need to. And let's see, what else do I have? I have the iPad that I read from is literally a first generation iPad. And we've had it for years. And I just have never replaced it because once I started doing this and brought this thing downstairs, I was just like, well, it's not broken. So, and then I have all of my equipment is outside of my studio. The only thing that's in here is my keyboard and my monitor that I have hung up and my iPad. And I have my microphone hanging, but all the cords and everything, all that stuff is outside. And I use RX. Love it. I record in Audition. I started with Ocean Audio, which was the free version of...
Yeah, it's kind of like a cross-platform version of a Twisted Wave.
Right. And I really loved it for a long time until I, needed to put my big girl panties on and get like a real one. And so I started with Studio One because that's what everybody used, and I absolutely hated it. I mean, I was like, oh my God, I'm just not cut out for this industry. Obviously, I can't do it anymore. And then I realized that there's other things out there. And, going from Studio One and trying out Audition, I was like, oh my gosh, thank goodness. It was almost like I'm not a Mac user, I'm a PC user. So I felt like Studio One, to me, it's like me on a Mac, and everything was backwards. Everything I was trying to do, I was like, why is this not doing this? This seems so simple. Why does this program not do this? And, and people that love it. And Audition seemed more exactly like a PC person. So I loved it.
No, that's great. I mean, I know a lot of that's kind of like me and Reaper. I knew so many people recommending it, and I took one look at it, and it was just like, ran for the hills.
Uh-huh.
It was just too much. But like you said, there's nothing wrong with seeing what's out there and just trusting your gut, and rather than forcing yourself to work with something that doesn't work with your brain.
And who has time to do that? I mean, it's really hard when you're wanting to explore and find out what's great for you because, I mean, that's taking time away from your money. Yeah,
exactly. You got to figure out the best use of your time. And I wanted to touch, because you mentioned about traveling with your gear, like your interface and your mic. Do you record from location very often, or is it specifically for auditions?
It's mostly definitely just auditions. I don't know. It's weird with audiobooks because it's such long form.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't recommend it. I was just curious.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people do, and it's fine, but just quick stuff. And I always try to I have a USB mic, but I just don't trust it as well as, and it's so easy to take my mic and that Scarlett's, it's so little and it's not so bad. So I usually will haul that with me.
Switching gears a little bit. So in your bio, you mentioned that you work under a pseudonym as well. Is that a large percentage of your work? And if you wouldn't mind, talk about why you decided to do that. Because we often have aspiring narrators like, should I use a pseudonym? What would I use it for? Those kind of questions.
Oh, that's a tricky one. So I always will try to tell new narrators. I have another pseudonym that I started out with, and it was sort of a practice, name where if there was works that I was doing when I was just starting out that I really didn't want under my name, I kind of put them over there. And then I had that one for a while. And then I decided, I mean, gosh, my kids they're 15 now. And so I really didn't want to, I thought I wasn't going to do it because I don't have the brain space to work with all these different profiles and all this stuff. And that's why I'm lazy and just have them all together. I mean, I'm not secretive about it or run different websites or whatever. But, it is hard. And that is true. But I also love it because it's an easy way for me to kind of let listeners know what genres they are just based on who I'm doing them under. I'm not like the Sovas that I was nominated for was under Allie Piper. And it was for a really dark and horrible horror book, but it was just fantastic to read. But it was just, out there. And so and I was not shy about it or whatever, but I also didn't, when you're getting into the industry, publishers are going to look through your stuff and they're going to look through and that's why I also didn't want to get pigeonholed in this romance thing because I didn't want them to go on my Audible page and it just be 1,000 romance titles. And they're like, oh, well, she can't do thriller. She's just a romance narrator. So I also wanted to start pushing more romance over there, not just the more erotic stuff, but just more, I don't know, to make my portfolio look a little bit more diverse.
Well, that's great. I mean, that's something we haven't really heard before. I mean, obviously, the obvious choice works that you don't want to be directly associated with for one reason or another. But that whole, I never considered it from a marketing standpoint where it's like, let me discover my niche first or a variety of things.
Yeah.
And also, like you said, you can sort of cover up your inexperience by working under a pseudonym as well. So that's a really cool consideration.
Yeah, exactly. And see, nobody definitely knows what that one is. Lord. That one can go to the fireplace for all.
Sorry, we won't pry, but we figured since the other one was in your bio, we could talk about that. So.
Oh, yeah. No, it's fine. That one was like, early days. You know how it is.
How does the awards work? I hadn't thought about that. So they announce the pseudonym and you walk up on stage. Does everybody say, oh, my God, how do you know that was her?
It depends on if you want it known or not.
Okay.
And that's really tricky right now in the industry. And, pseudonyms are sacred. And to out somebody is basically going to have you blackballed for life, and
wow.
You don't do that. And, people have their reasons for that. But, and I think I can say this because Andy is, she's outed herself too, but the Audie nominations were today and earlier this morning, and she was nominated in romance for her pseudonym.
Andy, you talking about Andy Arndt?
Yes. Sorry.
Also a guest on the show.
Oh, boy, I'm just...
Name drop. No, it's fine.
I'm just, boy, y'all are out of people to bring on here, aren't you? I get it.
We're really scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Bless my heart. I mean, seriously. Thank goodness I'm still here.
Well, I'll have you know that we have a pretty famous Hollywood on-camera actress coming on next. So you are predating her, so you should be proud of that.
Can you name drop her?
No, it's not completely confirmed yet, but you'll hear. It'll be the episode after you.
Interesting. Okay. Anyway, point being is, like 2017, she was nominated under her pseudonym, and she had to kind of make that decision. Like, does she want to be acknowledged? Because this is a huge award, and it's really an esteemed, and you may not ever get nominated again, So, at that time, she was like, might as well. So I get that. And again, like I was nominated for Sovas and I was really proud of my work on that book. And the only reason that I didn't put my name on it is because it was so graphic and so disturbing and it needed to be an Allie book, so, but, Allie worked her butt off on that book too. So, why not celebrate her too? And so, yeah, but people are very weird about it. Like, some people will get nominated and wear masks and
interesting
be incognito. So, yeah.
I get it. I
It's
still have a
interesting.
pseudonym I have not outed all these years. And now, like I said, my one son is 13 now, my youngest son. I probably don't care anymore. But next time I have a book that comes out, maybe I'll talk about it and out myself. So we'll see.
And like I didn't know what my kids were going to be like, when I started this. And now, of course, I already told y'all, like, they hate to read. They will never listen to anything I ever narrate. So I really don't have to worry about
Secret
them,
identity is safe.
listening to anything I do. So it really doesn't, I'm not as secretive about it as I was a few years ago because I'm truly not worried about the kids stuff as much as I probably was years ago.
There you go. Well, speaking of awards, you've won several awards, such as the Voice Arts Awards we talked about, the One Voice Awards, and Sultry Listener Awards. How does it feel, and have they been helpful in promotion of your business?
This has been like on all of my work colleagues' brains and mouths this whole week because audis were coming out, and they just came out this morning.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And I still don't know. And I don't know how to answer that because I love getting awarded and nominated because it makes me feel validated in the industry. And it makes me feel like I've earned a spot here versus it being a rite of passage, put it at the bottom of your, signature or whatever. I feel like it's really a great thing to get nominated, but for me, it makes me feel like that I'm okay here and I belong here and I can continue to work here. And you know what I mean? I mean, does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So that's why it's important. That's why those are important to me, but they're not super, super, super important to me.
No, validation is a huge
getting-
part of the acting industry in general. I mean, we're constantly battling imposter syndrome because we send out auditions. We have no idea if anyone's listening or if they're snickering at us as they listen.
I know. It's all rejection
exactly.
response. So to actually have your industry recognize you for your efforts is huge.
Yeah, and I think it's I mean, my whole thing with audiobooks is like, I've done 200 and whatever, what did I say, 260 or something?
260, yeah.
And out of those 260, I mean, God, less than 8% are actually in bookstores. Like I can go into a bookstore and pick up a book that I've narrated.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate that. That's been on my inspiration board for like the past 3 years. Like I just want to be in bookstores. I don't care about the money. I don't care about the awards. I want to be in a bookstore. So it's like, that's my award is to like be able to walk into a bookstore and say, I narrated this book and it's a bestseller book. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm weird, but yeah, that's what I care about. But I'll still, by golly, nominate those things. I'll throw my hat in.
Well, here's to many more awards to come.
Yay! Hopefully.
Now, before we wrap up, because it's a prescient topic still, our obligatory AI question, as an avid consumer of audiobooks, how do you feel about AI voices starting to be used for this medium? Should we be concerned? Are there any types of books that might actually be good for?
Okay, I've had I'm a tech nerd, obviously, and that's why I like, know all this stuff that I do, because I like to self-learn and self-teach and all that stuff. Anyway, so I've been on this AI bandwagon opinion for a while. I have never considered AI a threat. I've never been scared of AI. I think it's really silly of us to be scared of AI in the audiobook world. I just feel like there are just too many books and there's too many success stories and there's too many authors that, there might be AI amongst, beginner books or new books or things like that. But, nobody worth their clout is going to use AI over a a human. They want quality. That's a big part of the industry. However, this is my thing. I am not against AI. I think that there is a definite place for AI in this industry, and it makes me crazy when people fight it and hate on it and don't understand it, because it can work with us and not against us. Like, in so many ways, like we were talking about earlier, the prepping, right, of an audiobook. Like, to do that, you can go, and I know that this is so taboo, and if y'all want to edit this out, it's totally fine. But like, you can go on ChatGPT AI, right, and sit there and say, what characters in this book have accents? And it can just pull all your characters and say, this person speaks with this person speaks with this. And I was like, well, what do they do for a living? This person is 45 and does this for a living and grew up in blah, blah, blah. And I mean, that's what you should be using AI for.
Exactly.
I mean,
and I'm so glad that you're promoting that use, because I'm starting to dabble with it too. And its ability to summarize, or like you said, to find specific notes that you're looking for. It's phenomenal.
It is.
And I feel
it really
like
is.
we should have a healthy respect for this stuff and not be afraid to utilize it, because right now we seem like the villagers in Frankenstein, right?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That is my 1,000%. I will cheer it from the rooftops. Like, I hate that there's such a negative thing with it. Like, everybody's scared that they're going to take over the world. And I'm like, no, that's not what it's for. And you don't need to be scared of it.
Skynet took our jobs.
I mean, I know it's not going to. And if you think it is, then that's another problem that you need to address. Something that I saw at one of the last conferences or whatever, I have not used it yet, but Positron gets the blah, blah, but I like Positron. I think it's great. I think it's a great tool. It's a tool in our toolbox, and it's not about stealing our voices. It's about helping us work more efficiently. Mm-hmm. And I think if there's a role for that, that's wonderful. Like, there was something at one of the conferences where it was like using one of the programs, and y'all might know what this is more than I do, but it was like, when you're in, you're doing pickups, right? And you're like in your Adobe Audition, and you're doing pickups, and you're looking at your waveform, but it has the words right with your waveform, so you know exactly where your pickup is, versus like listening and figuring out where in the 20-minute file it is, kind of thing. And I was like, oh, that would be great. But, that's AI, and, it's frowned upon. But
and that's the thing, is like, you have this nebulous idea of it as a threat without all of its potential positive applications. And I think that software was Hindenburg. We actually interviewed the guy who created it. And it's fabulous for e-learning, for audiobooks, for video games, anything with like huge long form content, like you said, that can be difficult to scroll through. And you mentioned Positron. For listeners who don't know, that's another sort of AI audiobook editing tool. And I know a lot of audiobook editors that use that, like professional editors, that use that to supplement their work, to help streamline it.
It's a tool. Yeah.
It is a tool. Exactly. It's not evil inherently. Like, it might be used for evil purposes sometimes, but it's not its fault.
That's exactly. And it's not the intention. And it's just like with anything. I mean, like, anything can be a weapon, and anything can be an enemy if you want it to be, or it can't, So it just depends on how you want to see it and how you want to use it and what you consider threatening. So, yeah, that's my opinion. And it drives me nuts when it just gets hated on, because I really, truly think it can help us in the long run. But that's me.
Well, that's a great attitude to have, and I hope it's accurate.
Yeah, I'm not a pro or anything of this, but that's my belief. And and honestly, you guys, like, when did this start? Like 2 years ago, and the big scare happened, and
that's about a good estimate. Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like it's fine. I mean, like, I feel like the big rush of fear has died down quite a bit.
Well, the marketing hype is dying down. We're starting to exhaust the potential uses for it, I think. and really getting to understand what it is capable of and what it could and should be used for. So with knowledge comes less fear, if not confidence.
Right.
But again, I agree. I really think that aspiring nators, experienced narrators really should look into these tools as ways to optimize their business.
Mm-hmm. And, they still can't do hands and feet at this point. So if they still haven't mastered that, I mean, they've had years
Don't ask
now
it to do
work
book
on that.
covers.
I know, right? So I think,
I think we're okay for a while.
Yeah, hopefully, anyway.
Well, Amanda, we're out of time, unfortunately. Well, not out of time, actually. We've gone pretty long, actually. Your interview, I think, might end up being the longest we've done. It's not a bad thing. It's been a fabulous conversation.
You're very generous with your insights.
But before we go, I wanted to give you a chance to promote yourself. Where can folks find you or hire you for their audiobook project?
I spend way too much time on social media to not have a significant following. So my first promotion for myself is going to be, please follow me on Instagram, and it's Stribling Amanda. The amount of time I spend editing videos and posts and things like that would make you cry. So go there first. And then my website is amandastribling.com. And I am on Audible under Amanda Stribling or Allie Piper.
Well, I'm a follower on Instagram. If you do that, you better like the Tennessee Volunteers, is all I can say.
Well, I know. I'm not shy. Well, only because we're finally good. I'm kind of embarrassed about it or not. But now I can promote it, right? So now I'm like, woohoo!
There you go.
Oh, and one quick thing about the Vols thing. One of my highlights of this past year was Dolly Parton I did 3 of her audiobooks, but I just did the credits on her audiobook, though. Like I did the intro credits and outro credits, but I was asked and found because of my Instagram account. Like, they know I'm from Knoxville, and they know I'm East Tennessee, and they literally reached out to me and said, I think you'd be perfect for this. So you never know.
That's awesome. Social media success story.
Yeah, even with my 1 follower.
You're saying it's just me?
Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, now 2. But
well, Amanda, again, it's been a huge pleasure. Thanks so much for being on the show, and best of luck in the future.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it so much for having me on.
It was our pleasure.
In these modern times, every business needs a website. When you need a website for your voice acting business, there's only one place to go. Like the name says, voiceactorwebsites.com. Their experience in this niche webmaster market gives them the ability to quickly and easily get you from concept to live online in a much shorter time. When you contact voiceactorwebsites.com, their team of experts and designers really get to know you and what your needs are. They work with you to highlight what you do. Then they create an easily navigable website for your potential clients to get the big picture of who you are and how your voice is the one for them. Plus, VoiceActorWebsites.com has other great resources, like their practice script library and other resources to help your voiceover career flourish. Don't try it yourself. Go with the pros. VoiceActorWebsites.com, where your VO website shouldn't be a pain in the you-know-what.
Thank you, Amanda. That was amazing. I think that might be our longest interview to date, which is not a bad thing. It was a great conversation. I loved everything she talked about. And I do want to say that we talked about the awards. Right after we hung up, like almost immediately, Amanda emailed me and said, I just won a freaking earphones award. Like the email came out right after we stopped recording. So congratulations to Amanda for her earphones award, her first. And it's an amazing accomplishment.
Well deserved. I mean, I'd like to take a little credit for helping manifest that, but honestly, it was so nice to meet you, Amanda. It was great. And we didn't ask her this question on the podcast, but I just wanted to point out for aspiring voice actors and narrators, look to Amanda's example. Like, she did a lot of things right, just how self-taught she was, how much she learned that she didn't know, how tenacious she was. So, because I'm seeing all the time on social media, in emails to GVAA, how do I get started? How do I get started? And we're happy to help, but also I just want to let give people some of their own agency back and encourage you to be like, do your own research. There are resources available. I have a resource document that I'm happy to send you. Jordan Reynolds has one, Nether Voice blog, VoiceOver Extra. There are so many resources to answer a lot of your questions. And of course, there's even iwanttobeavoiceactor.com, Dee Bradley Baker's site. So there are plenty of resources for you to use, and you don't need to feel paralyzed by analysis paralysis. There are a lot of resources, and if you want to get started, start and continue, right? So this takes patience and persistence and perseverance. So if you really want to do this, you just have to start.
Yeah, my whole story is about tenacity too. I think I've mentioned this before, but I always quote the line from Rudy, where Charles Dutton describes Rudy. He says, "Kid, you're 5 foot nothing, 100 and nothing, and not a speck of athletic ability, but you got heart." And that's all it was. It's just heart and tenacity to keep pushing forward in spite of all the obstacles in front of you. And Amanda's a perfect example of that.
So thanks again, Amanda, for being on the podcast. It was so great to talk to you. We're still in the works with our schedule for upcoming episodes, but be on the lookout for those, and you'll hear us in the next one. Thanks for listening to this episode of the VO Meter. To follow along, visit us at www.vometer.com.
We'd also love to hear your comments or suggestions for the show. Or if you have a questionable gear purchase, tell us all about it on our Facebook page or on Twitter at the VO Meter.